Hi, it's so nice that you're here to quickly get brainted with me. I'm your host, Laura, and welcome to my Mindful Storytelling podcast.
Hi, and welcome to a Quickly Get Brainted episode with me. I'm so glad that you're here again, and I would love for you to take this episode to heart and give it a listen, and also maybe listen to another episode that's called JOMO versus FOMO, because they're somehow intertwined. But today we're talking about a sensation that's called the dissociation effect. So let's start. So, have you ever felt like you're watching your life from the outside? Because I have. Like you're there, but you're not really there, also called not being present at all. Like you're stuck in a loop of thoughts, totally aware, but also completely numb, maybe even brain fogged. If that sounds familiar, this episode is for you. So let's talk about the quiet, confusing state called dissociation and why it might actually be more common than we think. I want to start by saying, yes, I have been there a lot of times. There were days when my body was going through the motions, maybe walking, maybe even smiling, but my mind, it felt like it had quietly just left the room. Paralyzed by thoughts, being overstimulated, so overwhelmed emotionally that feeling nothing at all started to feel like the safest place to be. And I'm talking about the whole thing, being overstimulated by just a car passing by. And on those days, this typical scrolling through videos felt safer than going out in the real world. And I hate that because the real world is just the best world to calm down sometimes. And playing a game, video game, mobile game, all of these things just felt easier than facing another conversation. Conversations were the end boss, which is so sad because I love to talk to people. So, and dreaming about a change was easier than actually stepping into it. And here I have to say again, listen to the other episode. That's where I talk about this particular sentence a little bit deeper. Now, dissociation sounds like a very specific word. So what is dissociation? To put it into simpler terms, by definition, it's when your mind disconnects from your present moment, your emotions, or even your sense of yourself. And very often, as a way of protecting you from overwhelm, stress, or trauma. And honestly, I think we all disassociate a little bit, especially nowadays. Just to give you an example, have you ever driven somewhere and not remember how you got there? It's called autopilot. But have you ever zoned out during a conversation or scrolled endlessly until time disappeared? That's dissociation. But when it becomes your norm and the standard you're living through, that's when it starts to feel like a quiet, invisible weight, like my all-day life. So how did I come to this specific effect, dissociation effect? I have to introduce you now to somebody, and that's Bonnie. Bonnie had a podcast episode with Matt Daher from yesterday, and that's a big shout out to Bonnie, who is a therapist at UCLA and spoke to Matt, as I just said, during his Going Away Party podcast episode. And that conversation, it really stayed with me. That doesn't happen so often, but this one had a really, really special something to it. So Bonnie has this mission. She has this mission to make therapy more accessible to people all around the world. For those who can't afford it or don't even have the access or maybe even the education about it. But beyond her mission, the way she talked about mental health just made me feel seen. I would be so curious if you have the same feeling. She took this heavy topic, for example, like dissociation, obviously, and brought it home with compassion without making it feel too heavy. So that's not easy to do. So thank you, Bonnie. And if you're curious about it, I would just recommend to give it a try. And now to the personal awareness journey. What did it with me? So for me personally, it took so much time just to realize what I was going through. To even put a name on it, to say, wait, this isn't laziness. This isn't me being weird. This is something deeper. Of course, a lot of these things can be connected to your body. So I strongly recommend seeking, of course, professional feedback if you have more feelings of these symptoms or heavier ones. I think there is a lot of connection between mind and the body, and there are a lot of things that you can do for your mind, and you will feel a sensation in your body and all over better feeling. But sometimes, of course, there are symptoms that have to be healed in the body first and then in the mind. So yes, I'm not an expert, and why I record this episode is not because I'm an expert or a therapist, but as someone who gets it. And maybe you just needed to hear that one word, and then you will go on a research hunt in the internet yourself and share your stories with me. I would love to learn from you as well. So who wants to open the door just a little? You're not alone out there. All right. So what helps? A few calming steps for the system, maybe for me. I'm not sure how to describe it, but I think one of the things that really grounds me is going to the park, like I did today. Away from cars, away from crowds, just me, some trees, and a few long deep breaths. And you have that like almost everywhere in the world. And I hope you have that. If you don't and you never tried it, maybe you can consider, even though I can't even imagine someone not trying that. If you haven't tried that, I'm really dying to know why not, and what are your ways to calm down. Because every time I do that, I tell myself, okay, I'm here, I'm okay, I love you. So I love myself. Yes, you, my tiny, soft inner child, to quote all the cliches. And most important, you're safe. I feel most safe at home, but sometimes I don't. And of course, if you're going outside, it can be dangerous. So I get it if you can't tell yourself you're safe. But if you find a spot in the park where you really feel at ease, I have that in the park. I love to go uphill and sit on the highest point of the park on a bench where I can watch over like almost everything. I have a good overwatch of my surroundings. I really feel safe. And if there are, of course, no people and it's not that bushy or whatever. Yes. So maybe that's a tip. Just search for the highest point, sit down there where you can overwatch and have a good view over everything. Maybe this sounds corny, maybe, but it also works. It's so easy and sometimes it just helps. And in a podcast episode of Jay Shetty I listened to recently, he was talking about how to calm your nerves. And I don't know who or which episode he was quoting, but he was talking about the fact that you just have to watch something that's naturally out there. So nature, of course. For example, a fire or a candle, even the candle, it's just a simple little fire effect. Or watching trees move, the leaves, if it's not winter. In winter, it's a little bit harder to watch, of course, something move naturally in nature because everything, of course, is sleeping and frozen still. These kind of things have the most calming effect, obviously, to the mind. And why I said to search for the highest point, maybe if you feel this heaviness weighing on your shoulder and brain fog and this dissociation effect, then you need to see something that calms you instantly. And at the highest point, the best thing, of course, to do is to gaze into the distance, just to look into the distance and not seeing something that blocks your vision. Gives your mind a kind of sensation, I want to say, that you have everything under control, that there are no obstacles in your way. Just try it out. It helps me, but I think maybe sometimes my mind is very easily to impress. So yeah, just remember, endless distraction, of course, isn't healing. Sometimes we run into noise, games or parties, mindless scrolling, but real presence, that's where the calm lives, and that's what gives you the most energy. And you have to do it with a little bit more aimed intention. So yes, for the last part, if you ever feel numb or disconnected or unsure why you feel off, I really hear you. And I hope this little audio hug finds you just at the right time and maybe gives you the push to listen to the other podcasts. I will link you down below. And so, yeah, let's just stay curious what's going on inside us and hopefully ask better questions. This is just a tiny reminder for kindness towards yourself, so you can show up for others and maybe for yourself, hopefully too. And yeah, thank you so much for being here with me. And for Bonnie, if you ever hear this, keep doing what you're doing. I think you're gonna change a lot of lives. Thank you so much again for staying till the end, and have a wonderful day, week, and yeah, bye.